Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks. The filet mignon, of course, the king of all those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes, best I've ever had. Probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, welcome in, everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, CBS 47, and NBC 24 in Fresno, California. And everybody else on those independents, thanks for joining us, as well as Hotel TV, plus Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Check out Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, a fun group. Talk about your favorite foods, your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Yes! All righty. By the way, our friends over at Vacation Buddies are giving away a couple of nights in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Scottsdale, Arizona. If you know the answer to this very simple trivia question, I'm going to give it to you right now. If you know the answer, call the number I give right afterwards and claim your 2 Friday nights right here in Vegas, Orlando, or Scottsdale, Arizona. Here is the question. Which of these cities is home to the tallest building in America? Is it A, New York, B, Chicago, C, Los Angeles? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777 or 702. Call this one. 702-603-1414. And maybe I'll even answer the phone. 702-603-1414. 702-603-1414. Now, Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they do want to give you a couple of nights right here in Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you know the answer, call 702-603-1414. 702-603-1414. Call now. Yes. So there's always that ongoing argument about baseball players, this era, that era. And the younger generation knows a little bit about what's going on in today's game, maybe a little bit about what's going on in the history of the game or what has happened in the history of the game. But there's always that fine line of, well, you weren't around while this particular person played, so you wouldn't know. You didn't get a chance to see him. There's always that Michael Jordan argument against everybody else. And Michael Jordan, even the players say Michael Jordan was the best. Period. Move on. And so a lot of people say George Herman Ruth was the best. That's it. Move on. And I'm one of those people. If you look at his numbers and compare them across the board to any player, that includes Show Me the Money, Shohei Ohtani, and everybody else across the board, Babe Ruth was the best of the best of the best. And, you know, he played in that dead ball era, that pre-1920. And according to your favorite search engine, we use the one that rhymes with noodle. They say the dead ball era pre-1920 was defined by low-scoring games, small bats, and small ball strategies. That's right, bunting and stealing. That's right, they actually did those things, and the power players did it too. Poor quality, dirty, soft baseballs. I mean, they were like beanbags. In fact, they really stayed in play for a long time too. In contrast, of course, well, let's face it, the live ball era, post-1920, which really it goes beyond there. Nonetheless, began with new rules, banning doctored baseballs, replacing them with frequently new baseballs, leading to higher scores and home run focused game, etc. and so forth. I mean, look, folks, there's such a difference between them. Now, if you've ever had your hands on one of the old baseballs, if you haven't, the best parallel is think back to when you were a little kid. If you were a baseball player or somebody you knew was, and they had one of those beat up baseballs, and you're like, oh, wow, this thing it's kind of soft. And boy, you can get some real grip on it. Yeah, you're right. You can get some grip on it because the ball's been beaten and beaten and beaten. It's been hit, pounded in the dirt. It's maybe hit bases, hit players, hit walls, whatever the hell. And obviously all the bats too. But the reality is those balls are like bean bags. And you say, well, geez, during the dead ball era, one ball was used for the entire game. That's what I'm talking about, folks. The entire game. Didn't matter whether it's dirty or scuffed or even misshaped. They used it. That's what they had. Unlike the game of today, I don't know, I think there's 150 baseballs per game, or the home team has to stock 100 to 150 baseballs or something like that per game. It's the home team's responsibility. And of course, these balls are harder. They're tighter wound, cork-centered baseballs as well. It's a very different animal. Now, pitching in the dead ball era, well, that certainly could alter the ball from scuffing and spitballs and making it much harder to hit as well. Unfortunately, in today's time, well, those pitches are outlawed. Of course, favoring hitters, like everything else. And you wonder why these guys are hitting 50, 60, 70 home runs in a season. You got 50-50 guys and all this other crap. And you want to talk about the most overrated club. I'm going to call it the 50-50 club because now it seems like almost anybody can hit 50 home runs. And now the bases are bigger with all the rules for base running and all this other garbage. Well, guess what? Now you've got a much easier base to steal ahead of you if you're on bases. Imagine a guy like Ricky Henderson who scored, I think he stole 130 bases one time in one season, something to that effect. I forget. Anyway, a lot of stolen bases. And the rules were, hey, you could throw to first base 50 times. It wouldn't matter. There was no rule saying how many times you could or could not throw to first base. Now, with all the rules, you have tighter wound baseballs, and you got pitch clocks. Everything favors the runner, and it favors the offense, period. The hitter and the offense all together. And so it's a lot harder to pitch in today's time. That's why you take a guy like Paul Skeens. You say, he's an anomaly. And the guy's incredible. Tarek Skubal, he's one of those guys. Those are the two best pitchers in baseball, period. And if you look at those guys and what they're able to accomplish, look, Skeens with the best ERA in the live ball era. I think posted a 1.94, which is nuts to imagine. But the reality is, the dead ball era was so hard on the offense. So obviously you had one baseball used through the whole game. And again, the pitchers basically could do whatever the hell they wanted with it. And also the dead ball era focused on strategy, speed, and singles. You take a guy like Ty Cobb, for example. Right? Ty Cobb was just one of those guys. He was a tremendous hitter. It seemed like the whole world didn't like him, whatever. But man, the guy could play baseball. Now, the live ball era, of course, you take guys that can hit the ball a country mile and you say, well, the live ball era is one thing. And I think what they're doing, the historians are probably saying, well, you've got a live ball and you got a dead ball. Look, I think that there are three baseballs to it in the whole history of it. You got the dead ball, then you have the non-dead ball, which doesn't mean it's a live ball. And then you have the steroid era forward, which I'll tell you why it's significant in my opinion. From a baseball standpoint, when you look at the steroid era, now I have a baseball from today's game and I have one from yesterday's game, so to say. When I say yesterday's, I'm talking the 1980s, 1990s. And actually I have a 2000s baseball right here in the studio. And if you compare today's ball to those balls, they're noticeably different. Today's ball is a lot lighter. The other balls are heavier. It's like hitting a rock. And again, I mean, a home run. I think back when I was a kid, watching guys hit 30 home runs, that was an enormous feat. 40 home runs was almost unthinkable. 50, forget it. So when you think of all those home runs that those big bombers hit back in the day, and then suddenly you got this steroid era, this performance-enhancing drug era that changed the offensive numbers. And yeah, the guys could hit. You take a guy like Barry Bonds. Barry could hit. He was a really, really good five-tool player before the whole steroid thing in the first place. I mean, why it appeared that he went that way, I'll never know. Actually, I have an idea, if it did happen, that is. But the reality is, I take a guy like Barry Bonds and say, Barry didn't need to do that. Barry was already a great hitter. He was a five-tool player. The guy could speed. He could steal bases. He had a great arm. Hit for average, hit for power. The guy could run. He had everything. And look, the glove on top of it, he's a gold glover. And when you look at a guy like him, you say, well, geez, how would he do back in the dead ball era? Something tells me Barry would have done really well in any era. And I don't think he needed any help to hit home runs and whatever. And that's why it's still not really, amongst the players and certain people, his alleged record, 762 home runs, is not even recognized because of the potential stain of that whole performance-enhancing drug era. But I think after that, you actually had baseballs that were wound even tighter. So now they stopped players from doing the steroids from a health standpoint, but they kept the offensive numbers up, so the ball's been tinkered with. You don't believe me? Ask Rob Manfred about the home run count and the home run totals when he took over. That should tell you everything you need to know, because now it seems like any player can hit 30 home runs, 40 home runs, and that's kind of the norm in today's time. It's ridiculous to think of, but we're going to come back with this in just a few minutes, right here on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average and best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UppercutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UppercutChops.com.
to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. All right, check them out, folks. And welcome back to everybody listening in on all of our radio affiliates, including our friends over in Atlanta. Thanks for waking up with us. Listening in on WDJY 99.1 FM, 8 a.m. Monday through Friday, right down the road over in Auburn, Alabama. War Eagle, our friends on WAUD, that's home of the Atlanta Braves, 7 p.m. Monday through Friday between Montgomery, Alabama and Columbus, Georgia. Out to the West Coast, our friends driving between sunny Southern California and right here in Las Vegas, listening in on Highway Country Radio 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM, home of the Vegas Golden Knights, the Raiders, and the Sports Circus at 7 p.m. Out to the West Coast, everybody up in Anchorage and down to Honolulu, listening in on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA, that's home of the New York Yankees, the 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Plus, everybody watching Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, WOW, Channel 47 in Fresno, California, Channel 24 in Fresno, California. That's CBS and NBC. Plus, everybody on our streamers. Pick your favorite streamer and on Chicago Food Favorites. Thanks for joining us there on Facebook. Fun group. Talk about your favorite foods, restaurants, recipes. Make some friends. Have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. And by the way, folks, if you're just tuning in, our friends at Vacation Buddies giving away a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Scottsdale, Arizona. If you know the answer to a simple trivia question. If you missed the question, I'm going to give it to you one more time. Call the number right afterwards. If you know the answer, pick up your 2 free nights right here in Vegas, Orlando, or Scottsdale. Which of these cities is home to the tallest building in America? A, New York. B, Chicago. C, Los Angeles. If you know the answer, call 702-603-1414. 702-603-1414. 702-603-1414. Now, Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with the station, but they want to give you a couple of nights right here in Vegas, Orlando, or Scottsdale. If you know the answer to that easy trivia question, call 702-603-1414 right now. All right. Left off with the dead ball era discussion. And it's important because you think about the young kids that are playing baseball today, right? Kids in Little League. I did a Little League show recently. And you think about these kids that are trying to emulate what they see on television, right? These great players and, wow, they're hitting home runs and da-da-da-da-da. They're hitting all these power shots. Well, look, first of all, the hitting mechanics are off. They're terribly, terribly off. I mean, really, it's advantage pitcher in the grand scheme of things, but people aren't looking at it that way because you got these launch angles and all this other crap. Now, the hitters are hitting a ball that seems to be compromised, in my opinion. Of course, that's just my opinion and the opinion of many, many, many other people, too. However, that's another discussion for another show. But thinking about the dead ball time when, again, the balls that were used in the baseball games before 1920, you had one ball used for the whole game, right? Soft, misshaped, dirty, scuffed, whatever, advantage pitcher. Today's, well, it's brand new baseballs. I mean, seemingly every third pitch or something like that, every fourth pitch. They're harder, they're tighter wound, they're cork center balls. I mean, they fly out of the yard. I mean, advantage pitcher in the dead ball area from all the scuffing and the spitballs and making it really hard to hit the ball. So you take guys like Babe Ruth and you're like, my God, this guy did what? He hit what? That's right. And in the live ball era, let's face it, the numbers jumped significantly. Advantage offense, advantage hitter. Never mind all the rules to make it even easier. Now, a pitch clock, of course, makes it easier because now the hitter knows that the pitcher can't necessarily quick pitch them or they're up against the clock, so they're going to have to deliver a ball within a certain time. So that's one thing. And let's face it, as far as the runners go, you got a runner on first, second, third, whatever. End of day, those guys know that you can only make 2 moves without penalty to that base. If you make a third move, You got to pick them off. Otherwise, it's an automatic one-base advancement in the same idea of a balk. So why did they call it a dead ball era in the first place? Remember, the ball was like a beanbag. That's it. It's real simple. It was a small ball game. You say, well, all right, what's the big deal? Well, let's face it. In the history of Major League Baseball, the dead ball era was a period of time where just stuff didn't happen offensively. Not like that. And in the grand scheme of things, I mean, look, we could go to, I got a pretty cool source here, and this is from Middlebury College, right? And so this is actually taken from middlebury.edu. Baseball Through the Ages by Colleen Cavaney and Dylan Mortimer. It's kind of a cool piece that they wrote here. And I kind of like this here. So they break it down real simple. Pre-1900s, hey, the first National League game ever played was in 1876. That's a long time ago, folks. With constantly changing rules. Run scoring environment. The era fluctuated wildly compared to, of course, following eras. But for example, an umpire crew was not formally required until 1879. How the hell did that work? In 1880, only 8 balls were in at bat, were necessary for a walk. That's right. 4 years later, in 1884, only 6 balls. It was not until 1889 that 4 balls became the standard for a walk. Right? So the amount of balls, I mean, literally was cut in half from, a 10-year period. That's crazy. No, I didn't even know that. So select walks, of course, you can click that to see where walks per game increased fairly steadily from that time. So it was like, all right, a little too much defense. Let's go ahead and change things. Now, initially, the distance of the mound to home plate was 50 foot. And then it was changed to 60 foot 6 inches in 1893. So from 1876 to 1893, it was 50 feet. That's right. Well, you want to talk about already hard to hit the ball? Wow. I mean, that is a significant difference. And let's face it, this is a very different time in baseball. So that dead ball era, we saw overall scoring decrease, right, for the pre-1900s. And home runs initially decreased in the transition to the dead ball era. And the name dead ball, of course, explains those balls, like I mentioned before. Until 1911, the baseball had a soft rubber core. Of course, compared to the cork that's now, it makes it basically like a golf ball. You want to hit a ball, a country mile, hit today's baseball. And so imagine a soft rubber core in the dead ball era. So, I mean, it was already hard to hit because the ball was already really, I wouldn't say unwound, but you know those old baseballs, when you use them, the thread starts coming out of it, the seams start coming apart? Well, that's what I'm talking about. And let's face it, games would also be played with the same ball until it was actually deemed unsafe. That's right, until the ball was deemed unsafe. So according to Strikeout Ascendant, the foul strike rule, adopted in 1901 and 1903 for the National and American Leagues respectively, was a huge contributor to the run suppression of the dead ball area. So the foul strike rule is what made foul balls actually count as strikes, making hitting significantly more difficult, in case you didn't know that one. And another important consideration regarding the difficulty of hitting is that pitches involving foreign substances, for example, a spitball, they were legal back then. Unsurprisingly, of course, strikeouts were up. And certainly it was a hell of a lot harder to hit the baseball. And of course, in the live ball era, all of that stuff essentially reversed, right? So they began with no doctoring of the baseball allowed whatsoever. No spitballs, none of that stuff. Getting rid of the dirty balls, the scuffed baseballs. And I don't know if you've ever put your hands on a new baseball, folks, and try to throw one. Even after it's rubbed down, the ball is very, very, very slick. Very slick. And so that's why a lot of times these spitballs and whatnot, well, to get better grips on the ball. And that's really all it was, right? So you can spin the ball tighter. And they're doing that today with spider tack and all this other crap anyway. That's why the pitchers have to be examined when they come off the field, seemingly every half inning or whatever the hell it is. And of course, later changes, and you got other rules that happened, but the ball also became harder and more kinetic when new yarn began to be used in its manufacturing. That's right, new yarn. And we also see a clear increase in runs per game from the dead ball era, with some teams scoring over 5 runs a game after scoring fewer than 3 over the course of certain years. That's how much it changed. And initially, and additionally, an enormous jump in home runs, as well as the long balls hit. So you've seen a lot more deep outfield hits and stuff like that. And this is what happened. They shut all the dead ball stuff down about 1920. And then, needless to say, we had the integration time. And of course, the integration time, we saw the balls getting a little bit liver, right? And hitters they started really hitting with more significant power as the average home runs rate climbed just about 1% in 1950, shattering the previous from about half of that. And the average home run rate climbed about 1% higher. So think about that. And so that's a big number when you take all the games that are played. And so the expansion era is when things started to get a little bit crazy. That was kind of like the 1960s. But the ball was still relatively dead in the grand scheme of things as opposed to where it is today. In fact, when we come back from break, we're going to pick up right there at the expansion era. And I'm going somewhere with this. And if you listen to this show, I'm always going somewhere with it. And you just got to hang in there, follow along, sit back, relax, drink your favorite beverage, and enjoy the show. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven: gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number:
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, iHeart, Stitcher, Deezer, plus a whole bunch of others. Also, check out the partners page. Lots of great partners. One of those is the music of legendary multi-platinum artist or band, Blue Oyster Cult. Check out blueoystercult.com. There's a hot link right to their tour page on the partners page at thesportscircus.com. Check out when they're going to be playing near you. And I got to tell you, folks, they sound phenomenal. They've been doing it for decades. Multi-platinum. Look, they are legit. No fix in the mix, no auto-tune, no nothing. They get out there, they do it. And you even heard Buck Dharma at the top of the show saying you're listening to the Sports Circus. And these are friends of ours, and we always want to help our friends. Listen, we don't get anything for saying this. These are our friends. We just want to make sure that the world knows about their really good music. If for some reason you've been living under a rock and you don't know about them, check them out at blueoystercult.com. And you can also click on the link on the partners page at thesportscircus.com. All right, welcome back to everybody. TV, radio, streaming, Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Pick your favorite medium. And, of course, even if you're on the Mars rover. The reality is, folks, we've been doing this for a very long time, and we're kind of all over the place, and whether it's TV, radio, streaming, whatever. And listen, this is a very different show compared to what everybody else is doing for the most part on air. We've been doing this for a decade, and the shows are different. They develop. The content is developed. When I tell you I'm going somewhere with it, believe me, I am going somewhere with it. I've been talking to you about dead ball, live ball. Now, we're actually at the expansion era right now, and I've cited Middlebury College at this point for this, and some really good information that they provided. I mean, a lot of the stuff is things that I already knew, but I'm just telling you, I don't edit the credit. If I use the source, I say the source. If it's a writer, I'll say the writer. If it's an aggregate, a search engine, if it's a artificial intelligence search or whatever the hell it is, listen, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cite it. Even when I say I'm using a search engine that rhymes with noodle, and I think you know who that is, but the reality is I want to make sure that I cite everybody because that is actually what good journalism is. That's called responsible reporting. Okay, nonetheless, the expansion era, right, going back through the 1960s. And look, strikeouts were starting to pick up a little bit. Runs per game, home runs, walks, whatever. And technically, if you look at it, the trends can be explained by an increase in the size of the strike zone in 1963. And so the increase, or better yet, I wouldn't necessarily say the strike zone increased per se, but what you've seen is the numbers actually, believe it or not, they seem to go down dramatically. I mean, they said, okay, being the powers that be, the rule makers in Major League Baseball, hey, look, we're seeing a little bit too much in the home runs and whatnot, the power numbers. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make it a little bit harder to hit the baseball, and we're going to have that strike zone expanded. And so let's face it, for a period, the strike zone was a lot bigger. And really, the height of the pitcher's mound was also lowered by 5 inches in 1969. So there's some different things going on. A little bit of tinkering with Major League Baseball, which I don't really like that stuff. I'm a traditionalist. Let's leave it alone. People call me an old head. That's okay, because at least I like it the way I like it. And so, unfortunately, you had that free agent era that seemed to change basically everything in baseball. So, in football, it was the collective bargaining 1993 situation. But in baseball, it's a very different situation. All this happened essentially in 1976. Major League Baseball owners agreed to let players become free agents on the condition that they had played out their contracts and had at least 6 years of service time. So it was a fundamental change in the ways that rosters were constructed and teams were built. So regardless of the introduction of free agency, the changes on the graph are likely driven mostly by other factors. So according to a particular article by Steve Treater, many new stadiums built around the time of the free agent era, they were built on AstroTurf, so basically painted concrete. And if you've ever played on AstroTurf, it's like playing on on green painted concrete. That's why I say that, rather than real grass in the outfield. And so some of the outfields were being built with increased dimensions as well. But the problem is, boy, you talk about injuries. This is when the injuries really started to happen. And you think about the same thing in football with all the knee injuries. Well, there's no give on that artificial surface, right? Because it's turf, and I guess it's surface, so it's maybe we should just call it a turfus. But the reality is, when you stick your baseball spikes into that artificial surface, well, there's no give. So the knee can really get damaged. So you have all the ACLs and MCLs, and there's all kinds of terrible knee issues. And I think that was, in my opinion, the beginning of a lot of knee injuries from the artificial surfaces. But they were cheaper to maintain. That's why they did it. So, yeah, there were bigger outfields and, of course, faster grass, which was the fake grass, which was really the turf. And teams tended to play smaller, quicker games rather than the big power games because they're basically playing on concrete. And so that would probably explain an initial dip in home runs and strikeouts, given the smaller players were less likely to sell out for the long ball, right? But really by the 1980s, teams had almost universally got rid of the AstroTurf and got right back to the natural grass. They were smart enough to do that. And of course, that changed the lead back to power hitting. So things changed once again. And then, of course, you had guys juicing. And the juicing really changed things. The home runs and the runs per game and the steroid area really was an enormous blemish in baseball. It was a terrible, terrible time. And you know, at the same time that was going on, well, you had overprinting of baseball cards. So even the average person like you and me that weren't necessarily playing, well, I was playing at that time, but for the average person, nonetheless, we'll say back in 1990, well, that was the junk era of wax packs for your baseball cards, whether it's Donruss or Topps or Fleer. Those are the three main ones at the time. Then Bowman was reintroduced at that time. And then Upper Deck came around in, 1988, 89. And so now you got more players in the card business. And now with all the hype around all these players that are hitting monster home runs and all this other crap, the fans were buying what? More baseball cards. The card companies were printing more cards, like they're printing more money. They devalued the cards. And now you may have let's go to Ken Griffey Jr. If you got a Ken Griffey Jr. card who was not a steroid guy, Ken Griffey's best card, or Griffey Jr. that is the Upper Deck 1989 card. And I think that was it was a high series card. But my point is that's his star rookie card. Now, if you look at other players at that time, or right around that time, that also were not junk era, or I wouldn't say they're steroid guys. Well, the only cards that were really worth anything back then, it was either the Upper Deck cards or the Topps Tiffany set cards. They have the white back on them rather than the green back on them. And so that's how you can delineate the two. But when you look at them, you say, well, all right, well, the Donruss cards were really ugly back then, like the 1990 cards. I remember I bought a case of those things, and I ripped all the packs, got a bunch of rookie cards from this guy and that guy, whatever, like the Sammy Sosas of the world and the Griffey Jr. first Donruss cards and whatnot. And they were just overprinted. They have no value or next to no value even today. And so you say the steroid era not only drove home runs and hype, but it drove consumers to get less value for their money. So this is where the, quote, hobby of collecting baseball cards turned into the business of baseball cards. That's how I see it. And it's still that way today. But in today's time with the cards, just the contemporary era of baseball has a contemporary era of baseball cards. Well, now you can't even have base cards anymore, which were those rookies from back in the day that I mentioned. Now you have to have these special parallels or these numbered cards or the autographed cards, and they have to be certified. And if they're not graded by pick your favorite grading company, which I see is one of the biggest scams out there ever. So you got a few grading companies really that are sitting out there that basically say, if you want your cards to be worth anything, you got to send them to us so we can certify that it's a legit card. And so we could go ahead and grade it and say, well, the centering is good, or maybe the borders are off, or maybe the corners are a little fuzzy. And this is what's going on in today's game from a collector side. That's how it affects you and me. But now in today's time, you look and say, well, in order for these players to have all those sexy numbers, well, they got to hit more home runs. So when Rob Manfred took over in the contemporary game, as I see it, of course, this is my opinion, well, what you see now are more home runs, more long balls. You see less strikeouts to a degree, but I mean, you see more strikeouts, but less kind of strikeouts. That's another discussion for another time. But the reality is the game has been tinkered with so much, just like the baseball card market has been tinkered with. It's kind of disgusting as I see it. And so with all the hype, guys like Ohtani, oh yeah, Ohtani's a great player, he's the greatest player ever. No, he's not. As a matter of fact, when we come back from break, we're going to talk about the 10 best players of all time in baseball. And guess what? Ohtani is not in the list. And that's not my list, folks. That's somebody else's list. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Lots more to come. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Listen, were you forced into getting a solar contract and now you just don't want it anymore? Maybe the solar company misled you. Or is your solar contract buried with hidden fees? Are you not saving the amount of money you thought you would on your energy costs? Don't worry. At the Solar Exit Hotline, we can help you cancel your solar contract, even if the panels are already installed. Our experienced legal team will review your contract and help you cancel it, possibly saving you thousands of dollars. You got to call right now for complete details. So listen, if you're not happy with your solar contract for any reason, we are here to help you cancel it. Call the Solar Exit Hotline now for immediate options to help you exit your solar contract. This call is 100% free.
800-485-3125. 800-485-3125. 800-485-3125. That's 800-485-3125.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out the store at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great items, hats, hoodies, t-shirts, baseball caps, beanie hats, sweatpants, coats, travel mugs, coffee mugs, mouse pads, all kinds of cool stuff with the clever Sports Circus logo on them. That's the store at thesportscircus.com. Check that out, folks. Mention my name, Ringmaster Sal, for an extra 10% off your first order. All right. Now, how the dead ball era has changed the game of baseball and how the game change has affected people like you and me, the average Joe or Josephine, from hitting beanbags in the 1900s to hitting seemingly juiced baseballs in today's time. I mean, honestly, it's a little embarrassing. If you don't hit 30 home runs seemingly in today's game, what kind of hitter are you? Because you're hitting a ball. It's kind of like a golf ball. Nonetheless, when you look at the way the game has evolved and you look at the baseball card markets, I'm a baseball card collector. I have been for 50 plus years. But the reality is when you look at the market, how the collectors, people call them, well, it's the hobby. It's not a hobby anymore, folks. It is a business at this point, period. You ask the average collector about this player and that player. They don't know diddly you-know-what about this player and that player. You know what they know? They know that the Mojo Parallel or the Bowman First Purple Refractor or something like that, we know that that is what's valuable with that player. And what do? They use these online shopping venues. You got 10-year-old kids out there doing this. And I remember going to one of these card shows right here in Las Vegas, and they had this trade time. You could trade your stuff, right, with other people. Basically, it's another part where you can actually sell cards independently, whatever. They say, oh, it's a trade session, whatever. The point is, people are saying, well, all right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to price these things out. Business, business, business. So here I've got a particular card that one of the kids was interested in. It's probably about a 10, 11-year-old kid. He looks at my card. He goes, oh, let me check the comps on your card. I'm like, what do you mean check the comps on the card? Do you know anything about baseball, kid, in the first place? No, kid doesn't know anything about baseball in the first place. And then what's worse is, why are you collecting the card? I'm not collecting it. I'm going to turn right around and sell it. That's all it is. It is the bottom feeders market. And honestly, the, quote, hobby has gone into the toilet. And that is a tragedy in itself. There was always something special about collecting baseball cards. Well, baseball cards, football cards. I have football cards from the 1950s still. But the reality is, the newer collector, or better yet, the newer business person, they don't know hardly anything about the players, which makes me sad as a former player. And I see these people, they go to games and they're like, well, I'm only going to the game because it's a business meeting or something like that. They don't go for the love of the game. And now the officials, they want to speed the game up, right? The commissioner of Major League Baseball wants to speed the game up. Why? Because people are less interested now. That's why. And either it's the long ball or nothing, right? Someone always said, well, chicks dig the long ball as a joke, whatever. Well, the reality is, if you're going to a ball game, you're supposed to be able to enjoy the ball game. No time restraints. Now they've got this nonsensical runner on second, this ghost runner on second base to start the 10th inning. I mean, as kids, we went to doubleheaders. I went to Wrigley Field for a bunch of doubleheaders as a kid. And we looked for those extra inning games because that was bonus baseball for us. So instead of getting 9 innings and 9 innings for 2 games back to back, hopefully we'd get a game that would go 13, 14, 15 innings. That's bonus baseball for the people that paid $1 to get in. And so ultimately, everything has changed. But you know what hasn't changed? Based on career stats, batting average, and overall offensive dominance, there are 10 great hitters, the top 10 hitters of all time, with a whole bunch of metrics. So I'm going to start at number 10 and work our way up. Number 10, one of the best modern hitters with a lifetime batting average of .338 and 8 batting titles, was the great Tony Gwynn. I have never seen a student of the game like him. The closest thing we have to it in today's time is Luis Ariz. Luis Ariz has the bat speed. He looks like Tony Gwynn up there. Something tells me he probably studied him as well. And when you look at Tony Gwynn, all the tape, and look, it took him 3 years, 3 seasons to have 1 3-strikeout game. And against a whole bevy of Hall of Fame pitchers, he's hitting about 400 against them. That's right. That's how good Tony Gwynn was. He was just an incredible, incredible baseball player, and he was a better human. Number 9 was the Yankee Clipper, Joe DiMaggio. And Joe with a lifetime batting average of .325. And of course, he's the guy that had that 56-game hit streak. 56 games in a row. Imagine that. That's a lot of games. 56 games not having a bad day. The closest anyone got to it that I recall was Pete Rose. Pete Rose had, a 44-game hit streak, and I think he ended up losing that to, who was the pitcher that got him? Was it Dan Quisenberry? No, it wasn't Dan Quisenberry. I forgot the pitcher that got him, but the reality is Pete Rose got the closest. And by the way, Pete Rose is not on this list. Number 8 is Willie Mays. Power, speed, 660 home runs, over 3,000 hits. That's right, over 3,000 hits. Willie Mays, arguably one of the best outfielders to ever play the game. One of the best players to ever play the game, for sure. That's why he's on this list. I'm a little disappointed that Henry Aaron is ranked number 7. Now, Hank Aaron, he ranks to the top 5 for hits, home runs, and RBIs. Imagine that. And it's Henry Aaron's home run record that is recognized still by the baseball world, generally speaking, despite the 762 by Barry Bonds. However, Henry Aaron also had, remember, 3,700 hits. Man, that's a lot of hits. He also played for 25 years. And you know what? You know what we didn't find? We didn't find Henry Aaron on the disabled list. No, that's just not a place that he lived. You got to think about that. Now, he's playing during a period of time where, well, let's face it, the game was a little bit harder than what it is today. Now, number 6 on this list, and I would agree with this, is Barry Bonds. I don't care about the home runs, whatever. Barry Bonds had an unbelievable and unmatched on-base ability. Now, remember, before the whole steroid thing, Barry, I mentioned this earlier, was already a 5-tool player. The guy could hit for power, hit for average. He had an incredible glove. He had an incredible arm. Nobody took an extra base on him. And the guy could run like the wind. So he was a true 5-tool player when he came up in 1986 with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And of course, when he went to the Bay Area, well, he saw McGuire and Canseco hitting home runs, and they were getting all the glory. And, well, let's face it, Barry Bonds wasn't getting the glory. So the reality is, Barry Bonds wanted his share too. So apparently, somebody said, the reports say that he got involved with performance-enhancing drugs. And the thing is, Barry didn't even need to. He was already a big bomber, but he had all the other tools that the other guys didn't have. Barry was truly one of the greatest players to play the game, far surpassing his dad, Bobby Bonds. I remember his dad played for my beloved White Sox when I was a kid. I remember watching him at Old Comiskey Park. But the reality is, Barry Bonds belongs on this list. Now, above him at number 5 is Stan the Man, Stan Musial. And of course, known for amazing consistency. He had 3,630 hits and very high batting averages. Stan Musial was one of those guys. And he was just like, oh, God, it's Stan. We know we're not going to get him out. We know he's going to get on base. And it's just one of those figures you see as a pitcher, like, oh, God, it's that guy? And I had those guys. When I played, I know there were certain players I just did not want to face because I knew they were going to find their way on base one way or another. even if they had to throw their elbow over the strike zone, which is illegal, by the way, it's a strike, just to get hit by a pitch. Number 4 is Rogers Hornsby. Way back in the day, if you don't know anything about this guy, you better read about him, because he had the highest right-handed batting average, lifetime, 358. And he also had a batting average season of 424. That's crazy. That's crazy. Now, what else is crazy is number 3 on the list is George Herman Ruth. You know him as Babe Ruth. Highest career OPS at 1.164 and slugging percentage of .690. Mind you, this guy's hitting home runs in the beanbag era. He's hitting rubber corked balls out of the yard a country mile. That's right. He was also a really, really good pitcher, too. He did things on the field. He's got so many records. I mean, we don't have time in the show to talk about him. But George Herman Ruth, I believe, is the best player that's ever played the game. However, because he also was a two-position player. Right? He wasn't a designated hitter like Show Me the Money, Shohei Ohtani. Babe Ruth was the best of the best. However, this list has Ted Williams as the number 2 player on the list. Highest career on-base percentage at .482. This guy was on base every other at bat. Crazy. And really widely considered the greatest pure hitter of all time. He was one of those guys. And a number 1 that seemed to be only liked by himself and Detroit Tiger fans was the great Ty Cobb. Holds the highest career batting average at 366. 366. He's in the 4,000 hit club. 12 batting titles. That is complete lunacy. When you look at those numbers, you're like, who in the world even came close to that? Well, the batting titles, that's debatable. I think another great hitter that, if both leagues were on there, I would say that Ichiro should have been on this list, because Ichiro is one of those guys where he played in the Japanese Baseball League and Major League Baseball, first ballot Hall of Famer, more hits than Pete Rose by 100 between both leagues, maybe even more than that. The point is, Ichiro should be on this list because it's the 10 best hitters of all time. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's show. I'm your Ringmaster Sal. We'll see you in 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.